Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you all joining us here today for today's session. Hope you're all having a very good start to this year, and thank you for joining us for today's first Business Gateway panel webinar of this year. I'm delighted that today we're going to be discussing e-commerce and selling online with our panel of experts who very kindly given their time to join us today. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to share their experiences and their tips of growing business sales that will help you in your own businesses in 2026. By the end of today's session, we hope that you'll have a good understanding of some of the important issues, the trends, and useful insights that you can use to help you grow your business and your sales online this year. My name is Jamie Fowler. I'm the Customer Service and Partnerships Manager for the Business Gateway National Unit. And before I come to our panel to do our introductions, I'll just cover a little bit of housekeeping for today's session. As you can see from a quick glance at your screen, we've got a very busy session today with lots of people who have joined. And as you've joined, you've been placed on mute just to avoid any background noise and so that everyone can hear today's discussion. Today's session is also being recorded and it will be available later on the Business Gateway YouTube page. You can still interact with us though, and you can put questions into the chat at the side that we'll pick up and see if our panel can answer or have a little bit of a discussion around those later on today. My colleagues Sally and Kieran, who you can't see on the screen, are busy keeping an eye on the chat as well. So any questions, we'll pick them up, and any relevant links that we think will be useful for you, we'll put into the chat at the side. And hopefully we won't have any IT issues today. I don't think there'll be any disruption, but if for any reason there is, we might drop off very quickly and then come back as soon as we can. With that all said, I'm delighted to be joined today by Anne-Marie, Claire, and Peter. And I'll just ask you to do a little bit of an introduction for each of yourselves. So Anne-Marie, if we can come to you first.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everybody. I'm Anne-Marie Morrison, for those who don't know me. I set up and founded Labels for Kids way back in 2004, which was a multi-award-winning e-commerce business selling name labels to mostly the school market, but also care homes, super yachts, and others all around the world. We had websites in 7 countries at one stage, and I managed to negotiate and sell my own business to an English company in 2022, and it still continues today, although I believe they may be re-platforming. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants from Australia and New Zealand originally, and I've worked a lot of audit, consultancy, investigations, liquidations, admin, and so on, as well as 19 years in my own business. Worked in private and public sector. And I did get an MBE for Queen's Honours in the Jubilee Awards for Women in Business and the Economy. Thanks.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Very good introduction. And Claire, can I bring you in?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claire Logan. I'm the e-commerce and marketing director currently at Aaron Centre Scotland, previously Aaron Aromatics. I've got about 15 years experience in e-commerce, specifically working for a lot of Scottish SMEs, including Lanes of Glasgow, Aim & Co and Slater Menswear. Currently in my position with Aaron, we have driven the website sales up 400% in the last 5 years, contributing about 40% of online revenue to the business as a whole.
That's it. Thank you very much, Claire. And Peter, if I can come to you.
Thanks, Jamie, and congratulations for organising an event on e-commerce. It's just great to see and fantastic to see so many people interested in the subject. I was one of the directors who set up Indes in 1995 as an e-commerce agency. Back then, we built our first e-commerce website, trading online, in last century. So we've been in the game quite a while. Today we're probably the best known e-commerce agency in Scotland. A lot of the big companies that trade from Scotland we look after. One of the things that we're involved with is a big conference. It's become the national event, e-commerce Scotland, and there's some news about that later on with a discounted voucher. And yeah, we're just really looking forward to an ever-growing sector of the market.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Peter. And again, just thank you all for your time today and joining us. And without further ado, we will get on. And I've got a few questions to ask At the same time, if anyone has any questions as we go along, if you put those into the chat at the side, we'll try and pick those up and bring them in. So a nice, simple question for us to start off with. And how would you describe the state of e-commerce for Scottish SMEs at the moment? So I'll maybe come to you first, Anne-Marie, and then to Claire and to Peter for your views, but feel free to chip in.
I would say it's booming. It's easier than ever before, but it's also the fastest moving and more competitive than ever before. Like UK online retail is 127.4 billion in 2024, and McKinsey predicted it would be worth 3 to 5 trillion in US dollars by 2030, and that's globally. But I think for small businesses, cash is tight, and they need to know that, when they get online, how should they get online, where do they put their money, and so on.
Fantastic. Claire, how about yourself from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, as an SME currently trying to trade in this market, it's not an easy one. I think everybody will be feeling that, retail in general. However, to echo Anne-Marie's points, there's so much potential in online retail right now. And even though it's a challenging market, it's getting more expensive, we're still seeing some really positive trajectory. Year to date, we're about 19% year-on-year growth. So there's absolutely, by kind of leaning into the right areas, there's opportunity still.
Fantastic. So yeah, very clear that opportunity is still there and coming through for you as well. And Peter, from your perspective, what are you saying?
Well, just I align myself totally with what Claire and Anne-Marie said, that it's a fantastic area of opportunity. I've looked high and low for some good quality Scottish statistics that don't sort of seem to be sort of too many. Probably the closest we've got is from last year's e-commerce Scotland event, where there was a polls taken throughout the day to get information from those who are attending, and a significant portion of the e-commerce trading businesses go along there. And just to give you some headline stats from that, the total turnover of the companies that attended e-commerce Scotland in Glasgow was 5.3 billion, and of that, they actually, almost all of them anonymously gave details about their turnover and their profitability. And the average turnover figure was 21%, and the profits were up 19% in that year, it gives an indication of why, as Anne-Marie said, this is a booming area.
So yeah, kind of phenomenal kind of stats there about kind of the growth potential from engaging with and using e-commerce and selling online. Keen to kind of dig a bit deeper now into seeing what we can advise people on, if there are any emerging trends that you're seeing, like AI or automation, social comment or social marketing that are coming through that you think businesses, if they're not already engaging with or prepared for, they should be getting ready for this year. Anyone want to come in on that one?
I think on the AI front, it can't be ignored. And I think from an SME point of view, it's also a really kind of area of trepidation, because it feels like such a big and potentially expensive thing to get involved in. But I think in small ways, in terms of like agentic search, that's kind of imminently coming into play, things like content generation on your site, use of FAQs. I think there's small things that you can still do without a huge budget behind it to make sure that you're getting ready and not left behind by the kind of emerging changes. And alongside that, automation, definitely, in terms of, I would use it mostly in email marketing. If you've got small teams, if you can set up email marketing automation flows, then immediately you're going to be able to expand the reach you have.
That's really, really interesting, Claire. There's maybe a point I'll come back to in a minute there, but Anne-Marie, Peter, any views on that as well? Anything else?
Peter's probably got a lot to say on agentic.
Well, look, AI and automation, they just go together so naturally. And I know there's a great deal of talk within the public sector about not only trying to get companies to have sales and to generate profits, but to scale. How do you scale that? How do you get from small e-commerce companies that turn over, 20, 30,000 pounds a year, and it sort of helps keep the wolves from the door. How do you go from that to a multi-million turnover business that's not only selling products locally, but selling them internationally? And the two things that come in all the time, and every e-commerce manager is obsessed by adopting AI and adopting automation, so that as you grow your sales and grow your profits, you're not having to increase your internal costs. Okay, it doesn't add new jobs, which I know is a priority of government, but if we can generate high profitability companies, then this is how you get across that difficulty in scaling a business, where you suddenly find yourself growing, take on more staff, your costs go up and crash. And that horrible growth chasm that you've got to cross. The way you do it is by growing your sales and not increasing your costs. That's how you scale a business. And what you've talked about, Jamie, here is at the very core of how we scale Scottish SMEs.
Yeah, that's really good. Anne-Marie, anything else to add?
Just to add briefly, I don't know if everyone knows Agentic AI. It's basically shopping powered by intelligent AI agents. It's becoming more important than ever to build your brand, because of the competition is so strong. And there's a lot of companies out there, like Shopbox AI, for example, who are already using AI to produce whatever the customer wants straight to their own shopping page or straight to their basket. If anyone asks, I can let them know more about that, and come to the conference to find out. They'll probably be there. Also, Google introduced on the 11th of January the Universal Commerce Protocol. There's a lot on that, so I don't want to go into any depth for the people on today, but if they want to look online, they'll find a lot about payments changing, and the shopping basically through your Gemini research results, etc. But I think the thing for small businesses is not to panic. Try and be the first mover with the same old thing, basically customer engagement, having your tech stack right at the start. The core platforms are really important. The fact your payments and your fraud detection is properly set up, your in-store point of service, your fulfillment returns, all of that still applies basically, because if you don't have the basics right, you can't have you can't have a train working without having the actual train without the wheels. Basically, there's no point putting the wheels on it if the actual main part of the train doesn't work. So I would say that would be the main thing. And I think we go on to social later, but I know Claire can add a lot on that about using social, and Jen said getting a lot back from social media. And I think the big thing on Agentic with that is just the social comments on the storefronts becoming basically a way of doing your shopping through that as well.
Can I maybe? I've been looking at people's faces as the topic of Agentic has been introduced. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this. Look, we've gone from a situation where if you want to buy some product, you go into town and you wander around John Lewis and all these other sort of places trying to look for something to buy. And we've moved from that to a situation where a lot of people have put their catalogs up online, and they'll have people to buy their products. But you still have to do it's maybe a little bit different, but it has some analogy with that old high street shopping experience, where you have to go around from you go to Amazon, you go to a few other stores. But the thing is, what's been happening recently is that with these new AI environments, like from OpenAI, such as ChatGPT, or from Google, Gemini, and so on, people go there and they will ask a question such as, I'm looking for a green raincoat. I don't want to spend more than £120 on it. And I wanted to have really good feedback from people who have purchased it, and a few other sort of characteristics. And they will say, one of the first steps might be, can you give me some suggestions as to what the product is and where I might go to? Give me the link. That's on the road to Agentic. And then the step that follows on from that, and companies like Amazon are experimenting with Rufus and so on, where the system you're interacting with will actually buy it for you. And Anne-Marie already mentioned UPC. This is a new protocol developed by Shopify and by Google. And this is a protocol whereby these AI systems are able to automatically buy without actually visiting that site. So that's agentic unpacked. Hopefully that makes sense. Sorry, Anne-Marie, I just
No, that's very useful. Thank you, Peter. Because I think, yeah, again, obviously I think a lot of people are very familiar with the term AI now that's coming. Agentic AI is really that sort of next step in terms of that shopping experience that you're talking about, Peter. So if it's something that you're on the call and you're not aware of that, it's maybe something to go and have a bit more of a read up about what that means and what it might mean for your business as well. And I hope everyone's kind of taking notes as we go, because there's already been some fantastic suggestions and tips. And I think being clear, and Anne-Marie, what you're saying earlier, you've almost got a very clear blueprint there of the steps that you need to take to grow your business. So thank you very much for that. I'll just come on kind of next just to link to that a little bit and ask, we've maybe touched on a few already, but for you, which e-commerce platforms or tools do you think will have the biggest impact for people, and which ones would you recommend to people to have a look at?
Sorry, I think I'm possibly the best qualified to sort of answer this, because we work with so many different businesses, and rather than just working for one business, if you tend to see patterns in what other people are up to, and it seems to me personally, on the basis of data that I observe, that the world's really come down to 3 platforms. It's basically Shopify Plus, and Magento open source. Those are really the sort of big 3. And it's not that one's better than the other. They're just different tools that you use in different ways. I mean, anybody who's starting off in e-commerce, and certainly until they get to at least 1 million or 2 million annual turnover, they should just be sticking with Shopify. It's a fantastic product. You can really quickly and easily create a great looking website, easy to use, fast, doesn't cost very much, total cost of ownership is low. If at the other end of the spectrum, you're a company that's turning over a good few million, and it's really complicated, and you're wanting to do all kinds of complicated business things, and you're really focused on the total cost of ownership of the thing, then Magento open source is really good. If you get to turn over 100 million a year, then you can go to Adobe Commerce. But for most SMEs, you can do pretty much anything that you want with Magento open source. But then you have this one in the middle, which is what happens when you've scaled a Shopify website, where Shopify will encourage you to migrate from Shopify to Shopify Plus, and they will be contacting you every 5 minutes to tell you that you should do this and annoy you. And it's a perfectly good platform. I know Claire uses it, and she'll be able to comment on the value of it. It's a great platform. Personally, I find a lot of the figures around total cost of ownership can be a bit high, around transaction costs and so on. It's because ultimately it's a templated system. There are some things that you can't do, and things like international trade, there are some limitations around some aspects of international trade. But generally speaking, for pretty much everybody, a lot of what you want to do can be met as you scale, moving from Shopify to Shopify Plus. I hope that's fair, Claire. You can add to it as a user.
Yeah, that's really good, Peter. Thank you. Claire, anything to add into that?
Yeah, just to echo Pete's point, I'm a big, I came off of a Magento platform. I used to use that in a previous business, and moved in to work with Shopify when joining Adam. And I'm a huge advocate for Shopify. I think it's been a great platform, especially for businesses as they want to get started online and then move to scale. It's scaled with us just now. We are now on Shopify Plus, just due to a couple of the features being required for what we're doing in business. And I think it is a relatively small cost entry point, which is fantastic. And as a platform and support and everything like that, I find them really quite good to deal with. And the kind of app extensions that you can use means that, again, when you want to trial different things, even something like either personalization or customer rewards programs, there's usually an add-on at a relatively low cost that you can add in to kind of test that with your audience. I think the other thing I talk about on platforms is definitely, I'm a huge advocate for email marketing. So kind of platform of choice is up to you depending on budgets, but it's definitely, if you don't have an email platform already, then I would just say get one, even if it's a start in MailChimp, but get started in email marketing.
That's a really, really good tip there. And yeah, I think we'll maybe come back to the email marketing side a little bit later. Anne-Marie, anything you'd like to add in as well?
Yeah, just confirming exactly the same thing, but it comes back to that old phrase, build it and they will come. And I think that's a common misconception of small businesses, that they'll be on a WordPress and a WooCommerce, for example, and they'll think, I've built my site, that's me. I've built it, that's it. Everybody, all these sales will come flooding in. And then as they grow, or they want to internationalize, or they want to have different languages and things, or different plugins for delivery, lots of things are blockers in the way. So whilst I'm not an advocate for re-platforming, because there's always a dip when you re-platform for a short period of time, for a few months, and you may miss your peak, so you have to watch the timing that when you do that, when you re-platform. At the same time, if you're on WordPress, I would totally recommend swapping and re-platforming to Shopify, particularly if you have maybe 20 or more products. But if you've only a couple of products and maybe a crafter, and you do one bespoke item and then you don't do it again, maybe you need to try something like Etsy or so it depends so much on whether you're a brand or a merchant, or how big you are, what you're selling. You may just be able to try it on Amazon and test a few products and see if there's a big market before you get a website and throw all your money into the website and try and build it from there. But
sorry, if I can sort of cover, you've mentioned WordPress, Anne-Marie. I couldn't help myself. It's just like that. We've mentioned Shopify Plus, and Magento, which I think are sort of serious products that support big businesses that do really well and successfully. But you always have to sort of say which platforms shouldn't you use, and personally, I'd say pretty much everything else. Right, because we've had a lot of experience of WooCommerce, because Anne-Marie mentioned it. WooCommerce is built on WordPress, which is a blogging platform. It wasn't really designed. It's a spade trying to be a fork. It's a different thing altogether. And the big problem with WordPress is it gets hacked all the time. And e-commerce websites are hacker magnets, and you want to keep these things secure. So use a professional tool and just use one of those 3 packages.
That's really, really helpful, Peter. And I'm keeping an eye on the chat at the same time. Delighted to see that in the chat we see lots of people kind of putting in their websites. So there's lots of people with their established businesses that are already selling online. 1 or 2 comments saying just starting out as well. So great to see everyone kind of putting the comments in there. And again, if there are any questions, please put them in there and we'll try and pick them up as well. So thank you for that. Just kind of moving on a little bit from that, we've kind of mentioned those kind of main platforms. Obviously, those are very well established, well-known e-commerce platforms. There's maybe a little bit of disruption coming now from some more of the kind of social selling side that's starting to emerge. And I think obviously the big one in that kind of space is the TikTok shop. I'm not on TikTok. I'm far too old for that, unfortunately. But I know it's a big thing that's coming through, and there's also a lot of hype around it. But is it worth it? What are your perspectives on that? And I'll maybe Claire, maybe come to you first, and then Anne-Marie and Peter.
Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think for maybe a majority of this group, I'd say no, not worth your time. We've started our set up on TikTok Shop and looking into it as a potential revenue channel for us. It was a painful process. The usability on that kind of platform side is not the friendliest. However, that being said, I think obviously the visibility across these social platforms, Instagram and TikTok particularly, on a video format, I think video is now going to be your key key focus for content. It's not easy by any means, and I do completely sympathise, especially with the smaller businesses. I have a pretty modest team in-house here at Arran, and we struggle to keep up with the content asked on these platforms. I've seen recommendations for TikTok to post somewhere between 3 and 5 videos a day. totally honest, we don't do it. I think it's completely unrealistic to ask that of business. I think it's fine if you're a content creator. So I do think absolutely don't ignore these channels. If anything else, just secure your handles. So make sure that you are the owner of your brand name on these channels. We're at Aaron Sense Scotland across everything. So even if we're not posting, it means nobody else can go and take that. But in terms of the actual social commerce part of it, yes, in time, TikTok Shop, but I think for majority of you, there's probably much bigger fish to get after at the moment. Yeah, for want of a better phrase.
Thanks, Claire. Anne-Marie, have you got an opinion on this? Have you seen it? What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree with Claire on everything she said. Like, just to put perspective, I can share some links which in the chat, but basically UK retail sales from the ONS, just to give everyone an idea, only 5.8% comes from social media, 40.8% from direct website non-food, 30% from Amazon retail, 15.3% from direct food websites, 8.1% from other marketplaces like eBay, Vinted, Temu, Etsy, Wayfair. So I mean, that's ONS stats and Mintel stats, which I can share the links for in the chat. So that confirms what Claire's saying. You know, it might work for you. You might be, maybe you're already an influencer and that's where you're getting your money from. But basically the stats show there's a lot more money to be made from other channels. Also in the split from that, the 127.4 billion of UK sales, they say the split in social is like 39.2 from TikTok, 29.7 on Insta, 25.7 Facebook, 2.7 referrals, 2.7 Pinterest, Snapchat, etc. So again, it depends on what your product is. Does it sell well? Who's your audience? And so many other things.
I'm so pleased. These kind of events are terrible if everybody agrees. So I'm going to disagree with both Anne-Marie and Claire. And then try and say what unusual. I think. Look. The point is, yeah. Look. Social commerce is small. You know, it's less than 6%. Yeah, it's only 7.4 billion. Right. So it's small, but remember, e-commerce is massive. Remember, globally, e-commerce, just the retail side of e-commerce is worth 7 trillion globally, you know, and B2B e-commerce is 5 times bigger. I mean, it's massive, you know, it's bigger than countries by, you know, a long way. So yeah, it's small, but, you know, there's still a lot. And if you've got, and it's not right for everything, you know, if you sell engineering parts for chainsaws, you know, you're probably not going to go on TikTok. You know, whereas if you're trying to promote some new health drink or something like that, it might be so it's product specific, because the thing about e-commerce, you can say things and they're not generic across all businesses. You know, everybody's different. It's like vehicles on the road. You got bicycles, you got trucks, you got cars, vans. Just, you know, they're all different, and it depends on what it is you're trying to do. That was the first point. So I had to think of a way to say I disagreed with Claire, because 9 times out of 10 I always agree with her. But she said she recommends not to try TikTok. But you see, I think there's a cultural point here, is that, you know, because it's relatively easy to do so, you should experiment all the time with e-commerce. You know, and then because he's saying, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Don't go on opinion. Go on data, and the way you get data is by running an experiment. So give it a try, see if it works, because you might be surprised. And hey, some people, I'm surprised all the time by e-commerce. You think, oh, that will never work. They try it, and it only takes sort of 10 minutes to try something out, have an experiment. Whoa, look at all that money that's coming in. So experiment. So
I think that's a really good point, Pierre, and that's one that I was going to come to as well. I mean, obviously we're saying, you know, not necessarily, but if your customers are going to be on TikTok, then absolutely that is where you should be promoting and trying to sell. And we've got quite a few kind of comments and questions coming in the chat. We'll maybe pick up a little bit later on as well. But my colleague Sally's also been putting in links into the chat there for people to look at and to see. And just a reminder that through Business Gateway, our series of webinars, we cover things like email marketing, we cover selling online, and we cover creating video content for your social media channels as well. So I'd encourage everyone to have a look at those if you've heard things here that are of interest today too.
A key thing, Jamie, is that very often if you take a topic like email marketing or SEO or something like that, it's often quite different for the general area than what it is if you have a specific goal of selling things online. And there's a lot of nuanced variations and differences. When you're focused on selling things, you tend to approach these topics in a very particular way that you need to learn and get skilled in.
Oh, thank you, Pierre. Good point. And I'm glad you touched on SEO there, because that's my next question that I'm going to come on to as well. And really, I'm going to just ask, we've touched on it a little bit already in terms of getting things ready for it, but how can Scottish businesses optimize their websites, not just for Google SEO? SEO has been around a long time, it's well established, a lot of people know that, but how can businesses get ready for SEO, but also, as we were talking about earlier, the AI assistants, the agentic AI shopping assistants coming in? I'm going to come to you first, Peter, and then I'll come back to you, Anne Marie, and then to Claire.
Oh, sorry, you muddled me up here. Right, so I think I scribbled down some notes earlier for this. The thing is, historically, people, as well as wanting their website to perform really well, so that when a human customer visited, it did well, they also wanted it to perform well on search engines like Google, so that you'd be highly visible, highly ranked, so somebody who was looking to buy something would be able to come straight through to you. Now, the thing is, obviously, in this webinar, we've introduced this new idea that during 2026, it's small at the moment, but it won't be by the end of the year, because there's such momentum behind it, this whole agentic process. You need to rank well for agentic systems, these AI systems. Now, these systems, they're not like a search engine that's just trying to simply rank, and they're not like a human being that sees all kinds of things to do with the brand and beautiful images and all that kind of stuff. They tend to go there, and because, let's say, using my example earlier, they wanted a green raincoat. They want to go there and they want to see, there's a thing called raincoat, and they want to see that there's lots of feedback that's positive from people, and they want to know how much it is. They want to know, is it in stock? And they want, there's all these details they want to know about it. Now, to get that, you have to be using this sort of universal commerce protocol. Or on Shopify, there's an even deeper level of integration, because they were one of the founding partners who sort of invented this whole sort of process. And the thing is, there's a really important top tip here, is that if you're trying to sell a product, if it's done agentically, you're not going to want to do this by just having a beautiful series of images of it. As well as that, you need to fill in all the fields, so, because somebody might have said, I don't want it made of plastic, so you have to have, so the material meta field in Shopify needs to have the information to say, oh, it's made of waxed cotton or whatever it is. So because, that's the way that agentic commerce is going to work. They're going to tie together the questions that people are looking to ask when they're looking for a product with the product that's available. So the top tip here is to make sure that all your product descriptions are correct, and you filled in all these meta fields. And you also, you don't need one if you're on Shopify because it's built in, but for anybody else, you need to make sure you've got sort of LLMs.txt files, which are little pointers to help the AI find, whether you've got it in stock and what your price is, and that's the kind of stuff.
That's a really, really helpful tip in terms of being really accurate on those basics and getting those kind of descriptions absolutely accurate. Claire, I'll maybe come to you next, because I think we touched on this earlier as well about some of the additional steps that people can take, help make sure that they're going to be visible for these types of channels.
Yeah, and it kind of leads on from what Pete's just been talking about regarding the content structure that you have in the website. And based on kind of the information and advice that we're taking at the moment, the Shopify at the moment are kind of pulling together a super catalogue, and they will be introducing ways and fields where you can actually populate this data. So it's making sure that, as Pete said, that's as filled out as possible. And then I think they're going to do some catalogue mapping to make sure that, a bit like what they already do in the Google feeds, that whatever categories you categorise on your website, that's fine. Just make sure they've got an kind of crossover with what Shopify's the kind of like parent category is. So again, I think it's just the attention to detail. The other parts in this as well is around brand credibility and making sure that you are leaning into who you are as a brand and who your customer is. FAQs, making sure all customer questions are answered, things on delivery, shipping, all the key points that might, I suppose what you're probably wanting to angle it at is, what would you ask an LLM, ChatGPT? What is it you're going to ask about a business before you make a purchase with them? And answer that question up front, because that's the information that the LLM is going to use. And things like, if you've got reviews, then make sure that you're staying on top of them and you're answering and you're interacting with them. If you don't have reviews set up, get them set up. Again, this gives you additional social proof, and you're given loads. What you're wanting to do is put positive points of reference as many places as you can, so that because that's the data the LLM is going to pull in, and decide whether you're the brand of choice that they're going to present to that user when they ask the questions.
That's really helpful, Claire. I think, yeah, that's a really good tip of making sure that it's not just your site that's up there, but your kind of social channels or anywhere that your brand is going to be mentioned, to make sure that you're seen as that credible step and that place that somebody wants to buy from. Fantastic, thank you. Anne-Marie, anything else to add in?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I would just say there is a significant overlap on things like ranking factors and bots, in that, just answer everything that the real person would want to know. Structured frequently asked questions, your descriptions, your blogging. Particularly, I notice we haven't mentioned much about B2B today, because we're more like B2C people, but on the B2B side, blogging is important, but it's not. A lot of people make mistakes, I think, of blogging about, we won this award, or so-and-so had a birthday today, or whatever. You don't want to blog about that. You want to blog about what is the customer wanting to know. Part of all your frequently asked questions could all make separate blogs, and you could build up the blogging side. But it isn't just the blogging. It is also building your brand, getting all your structure right, getting all of your, some video in there, some good photography in there, everything basically that any of the bots, Google or customers would be looking for. That was it. That's
really good. Thanks, Anne-Marie. There's a couple, we can keep an eye on the chat. There's been a few questions coming in there, particularly around the kind of platforms that people are using. So we're just going to pick up a couple of those quickly just now. And there was a question which came in around using Amazon. I'm just trying to check the name. I think it was Mary that was asking him, is it worth selling on Amazon? Because obviously, I think some people think that is the kind of go-to place. What's your opinions about that? Still a good location for people to be putting their products on?
Yes.
Yes. There you go. Nice and simple answer. Always good to get that.
Try it. Try it on Amazon. That's the thing. It's so easy compared to doing your own website build. If you don't have your website, try a few products on Amazon, see how you go. Is there a market for it? And then go from there.
I think some of the things with Amazon as well, though, to consider are, and it's what we come up against. We do have a storefront in Amazon, and we do sell a proportion directly through that. There's other factors there in terms of the competitive nature of it, their own ecosystem in terms of the ad space as well, and the fees. So again, another unpopular opinion for me, I don't love Amazon. But we are, again, it's kind of back to what Pete and Anne-Marie have also said, it does depend what your product is. We're an own branded product, and we have our own kind of USPs. So when we go in, we're a personal care brand. When we go in with personal care in Amazon, it's a beast. And for us as an SME to compete in that market is very challenging.
Yeah, I think a lot of people view Amazon as the devil. They should pay more tax. There's a message for government. But look, you can't ignore, whether you use it or not, you can't ignore it. It's too big. Depending on how you choose, what metric you choose, it's pretty much half of retail e-commerce in the UK, and a growing section of B2B e-commerce, which is 35 times bigger than retail e-commerce. So you can't ignore it. But like the point I said before, give it, as you know, Anne-Marie said, give it a try. And you might get thinner margins, but if you sell 100 times more, then hey, what's not to like? The key thing in all of this is there's only one. E-commerce isn't, we've talked a lot about technology, but e-commerce is not about technology, and it's not about online. It's about money. And the ultimate measure isn't turnover, it's profit. So the thing is, just use that one yardstick, that single metric, profit. And with Amazon, try it out. If you get sales but you don't make profit, dump it. Which I think is Claire's point, because a lot of people work on very thin margins, and it can sometimes be quite. I mean, remember, there's lots of different ways to use Amazon, but the thing is, the key thing to watch is profit. And if you make profit, no matter how small it is, even if you're only making a small profit, remember you're taking market share off your competitors. So there's a win-win there. But the key thing is make profit.
Yeah.
Jamie, I think adding to that, what Pete says and what Claire had said is, they can be taken up to 20% of your margin, and plus extra stuff if you're using them for storage and delivery and admin charges and so on. So, I mean, you really need to think carefully about how much margin do you have to lose. And I know a lot of people that have done very well on Amazon, and basically mostly sell just through Amazon and make a fortune, mostly delivering from their warehouses where they do all the fulfillment. If you don't have, like for labels, for example, we were personalized, so we couldn't do it through their warehouses. We had to do it from us. So that made it much harder to fulfill. We couldn't fulfill from Amazon warehouses. But if you can do that, and you can do it in every country, it's a good way of building your brand in every country if you're making good margins from it as well. But just watch your profits, and don't be a busy, what do they say? Don't be a busy fool. Where you're losing lots of money, but you're selling a fortune of products. Because I know others on Amazon that sold a huge amount and then realized they've been losing money for 6 months. So
yeah, I mean, a general rule of thumb there is that if you're trying to sell things on Amazon that are manufactured by somebody else, you're probably on a hiding to nothing. It's not going to work. It's got to be your own products, So Aaron is probably in there. You probably also need to have a margin of probably 100%, and then you can get the whole thing to work, or at least 70, 80%.
Yeah.
If you've only got 50% margin, it probably isn't going to work.
I think
that's a really, really good point.
Sorry, just to finish off that, what Anne-Marie said, I think the Busy's Fool point is kind of really interesting for e-commerce in general. I think there's so many avenues you can go down. You could have an endless list of all the channels, the marketplaces. I think you need to not try and be everywhere, especially in the beginning. There's no need. I think you can create a scalable and growing business by focusing know where your customers are, and put your chips there, because trying to be across all of these becomes a very expensive and time-consuming exercise.
Those are absolutely fantastic, both in terms of like making sure you know where your customers are, making sure you're selling to the right place, and keeping an eye on those numbers and keeping an eye on how your sales are going ultimately, because you're absolutely right. That is absolutely key. There's been quite a lot of comments coming in about different platforms that people use. I know we've already kind of discussed and covered that, but just for anyone that's kind of missed that, we always kind of highlighted Shopify as being one of the key ones. A few other people have said that they are still using WordPress. That's kind of where they set up. I think we kind of touched on there's maybe security concerns around the use of WordPress, so it's maybe worth considering whether that's still right. And I think the other one that's coming, quite a few people have kind of mentioned using Squarespace as well. Any other particular views on kind of platforms like those?
Yeah, the thing is, e-commerce is, with every month that passes by, e-commerce gets more and more complicated, and you've really got to have an awful lot of technological developments behind it if you're going to make sure that the platform that you're using is up to speed with all the very latest tech and developments. Shopify is up there with it. Magento is up there with it. It's my experience that some of the other platforms aren't quite with it because they don't have the depth and breadth of technical resources to make sure that they're fit for the current age of so I've got sort of security issues with WooCommerce and some of the other products, because I saw Wix had been mentioned, Squarespace had been mentioned. They just don't have the depth and breadth of the facilities that you get with a platform like Shopify. If you're a small business, just use Shopify.
Really helpful, and yeah, very kind of clear suggestion there. If you are setting up at the moment or you're looking to move, that's really quite useful. I think.
So I see someone's just said BigCommerce. Well,
yes, yeah, just about that. Yeah.
Look, I know. Well, go to Google Trends and type in BigCommerce and type in a Shopify. You know, Zumpf. BigCommerce is dead. Right? Don't use it. People used to use it because it had some advantages historically for B2B. That doesn't apply anymore. Shopify's got all of that sorted. Is that fair, Claire?
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like we are actually not commissioned by Shopify. I would like to also just give that caveat. However, no, I do tend to agree to for the most part what you're saying, and I think it's just ease of use, and especially if you're in a really small business, it's about making sure the platform is working hard for you, so you're not having to worry about have they made the optimizations to keep up with the emerging trends in AI. Can you optimize your site for search based on the tools that they're putting in for you? But I would say, like, I do understand if you're already set up in a particular area, although WordPress, I would be definitely WordPress and Wix, the security concerns, especially given the kind of emerging environment, probably are worth review. Moving your site is easier said than done. I completely appreciate it. I've been through replatforming myself. It's not only expensive, it's a headache. So I think it's about the support you're getting from that platform and making sure that you're utilising your support channels as much as possible. Ask them the questions and put it back on them, asking them what are they doing about agentic search, or how do you best optimise your search, optimise for SEO and things like that. I know that it's not always ideal to just say, I'm on Squarespace today, I'll be on Shopify tomorrow. So I think that just be aware of what your platform can do for you and lean into their support on that.
If I can add one thing to that, if somebody was going in for a sort of a hip operation, you'd like to think that the surgeon had actually done at least half a dozen of these operations before. Equally, if you're going for a re-platform, which is, you know, Claire's sort of headache pain point, it just, you know, make sure that the person you're using to do it has actually done this several times before. And if they haven't, change your supplier. You know, and that just because they say, oh yes, I've done half a dozen, we say, and who were those people? And contact them, give them a call and say they migrated your platform. What did they do a decent job? No, it was a disaster, right? So speak to people.
Or just try and use the website. Try and use the website. That'll tell you. That'll tell you right away whether they're good or not.
I'm conscious of time. We're coming up to the last 10 minutes, so I think we've probably got time for another couple of quick questions. So I'm going to ask one which we've kind of touched on. I think everyone's going to touch on at different points. It's the word customers, absolutely kind of key to everything here. And I'm just going to ask, is there any kind of evolving or kind of changing expectations and behaviors that you're seeing from customers and their use of their experience of buying and where they're going? Any kind of trends that you're seeing around that, or you think that people need to be aware of and looking to meet? I'll maybe come to you first, Anne-Marie.
I would just talk on, since having sold my business, I'm working with a lot of clients that do mentoring and advising with a number of e-commerce and non-e-commerce clients. Basically, I think customers are getting more and more impatient. They're getting fast. Everything's faster moving. The technology's faster moving. Customers are faster moving. They want fast deliveries. They want all their questions answered as fast as they can in the format that they want, whether it be phone, WhatsApp, live chat, email, reviews, videos, social, you know, all of them, basically. Companies like Shopbox AI, for example, are good for logins and trying to get the customers what they want faster. Klaviyo and others for email marketing, rewards programs, reviews programs that are trusted. But a lot of people are not trusting reviews programs as much as well these days, because there's a few that have had bad press. There's a few good ones that you would use, like Reviews.io and others. But I would just say they're very impatient, and be calm and prepared for that. Don't get into an argument. Customer's always right. But there's the old one. Remember that old one, United and guitars, with there was a musician years ago that had a guitar smashed up by United Airlines, and he played in on that, and he basically went, they smash up your guitars, and look how bad they are on social media and stuff. But he actually he actually got a lot of follow on because of people watching his videos and stuff. Yeah, actually sort of what could have been disaster for United actually worked out all right in the end. They got a lot of mentions in the media. So just answer everything you can, as much as you can, and everywhere.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. And Claire, anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, totally agree with Anne-Marie. I think customers are more than ever becoming more demanding as the kind of environment's changing in terms of digital commerce. Kind of touched on them earlier, but personalization and loyalty rewards would probably be the two areas that we definitely lean into. I think from our point of view, you need a new customer coming into your business, because that's the only way to continue to grow. However, especially with this price and advertising at the moment across like your kind of major networks and Google and Meta, then once you've got that customer, you want to retain them. Your returning customer is probably worth about 3 times to you what your new customer is. So it's about looking at what's happening within your on your site, and as a brand, like what are you doing to make sure that that customer is not just a one and done purchase, and you're keeping them coming back time and time again.
Thanks. And Peter, anything else you'd add in?
Dashboards, right? Sort of, can you imagine if you were driving a car that didn't have any instrumentation on the dashboard? You didn't know what speed you were doing. You didn't know whether an emergency light had come on. You didn't know how much fuel you had left. It would be impossible to sort of do much. Now the same is true with e-commerce, and you need a really, really good dashboard. And we had some generous support from Scottish Enterprise a while back to help us develop a real-time dashboard that basically updates pretty much absolutely everything about your business within just a few minutes. So in real time, you understand what your customers are doing. You can understand why they've not bought something, or where they've gone, or how to do it. So that tight interaction with the customers is hugely important. And I absolutely echo what Claire said. The whole sort of this sort of interaction, personalization was very much the trend last year, but still a lot of people are trying to catch up with this and not using it to its full extent. You want to personalize everything. You're not selling to a big audience, you're selling to that individual person who wants to buy that particular thing from your particular store, and you've got to try and use all these clever new tools that are around to make that happen.
Thanks, Peter. I'm going to try and be ambitious and try and squeeze in another couple of questions.
Sorry.
So
that people don't drop off. Hang on till the end of this, because I've got a very valuable voucher that we can hand out at the end. So hang around, don't leave.
Exactly, quite right. If you just wait to the end, I'll make sure you've got plenty of time. Just quickly, before we kind of finish up, is there one tip from today that you'd really like people to take away, and that you think would be for somebody that's, we've already seen the chat, a lot of people are at the early stages of starting out here, maybe some are looking at changing their platform, but what's the kind of one piece of advice you would give to anyone that's sort of starting up on that journey at the moment? You first, Anne-Marie.
I would say it used to be a lot harder than it is now, but network in the right circles with the right people who have been there and done it before, and I run the e-commerce club in Scotland. I've done it for 13 years. It's free to attend. I can share the link in the chat. We also help with the organising committee for the conference that Pete's going to mention. Come along to the conference, come along to the club things, and don't re-platform unless you really need to. And as we've talked about, going from WordPress to Shopify, totally do it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne-Marie. And Claire, from yourself?
I think it'd be put your customer first. Make sure that the decisions you're making and where you're wanting to try and be is where the customer is, and kind of don't worry about the noise too much. There's always somebody that you'll meet and tell you that there's another amazing new platform or marketplace to be on, but really focus in on what you're trying to do as a business. And I would, as a key channel, I would always, no matter what you're selling, email marketing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Claire. And Peter, from yourself, how about one kind of piece of advice? What do you think?
Focus on the money. I mean, look, I've already said e-commerce is about profitability and money. So the thing, and there's a ton of ways you can save money if you have an e-commerce business. If you look through all the various subscriptions that you have, I bet you there's some subscriptions that you pay out for monthly that you actually no longer use and can get rid of. Every time we've done that with an audit, you find subscriptions that you're not using and can be dumped. Also, if you shift from monthly billing to annual billing, then pretty much every product will give you a significant discount. They're typically about 20% discount if you move to annual billing. So if you've got the cash flow to do it, buy your services annually, not monthly. Renegotiate your card fees, just because these are the fees you're doing at the moment. If you're a growing business, then as you turn over more and more business, you should be able to get better card fees from payments, and you should be able to get better shipping rates. Always ask anybody who's a supplier, what can you do to cut your costs, and experiment. And the top tip here, particularly for sort of Shopify businesses, is look at your sort of free shipping thresholds. It's amazing. People just put in a free shipping threshold and then they leave it. Whereas they could find that, you get free shipping over £30. If you changed it to £50, how much business do you lose, or how much business do you gain? And very often it's all these little nips, tucks and tweaks will allow you to make more profit. So look at everything to save money.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Peter. And conscious of time, we're nearly out of time, but just before we go, I want to just highlight quickly to say that in the chat, my colleague Sally has shared a link to the feedback with the feedback code there. It really helps us improve webinars and improve the experience for you as attendees, and helps us get suggestions for new topics that you'd like to see as well. So by all means, please engage with that and answer the survey about what you thought of today's webinar and what you would like to see in future. And I'll just quickly pass over to you, Peter, because we've mentioned it already, but there is obviously the e-commerce Scotland event coming up. So I'll let you chat a little bit about that.
It's fantastic, but there again, I'm biased. Look, it takes place in the Glasgow Science Centre, IMAX. We get just about every big e-commerce company sort of comes along to that, and lots of smaller companies. It's a fantastic opportunity to sort of network and so on. The presentations are on a screen that's bigger than a tennis court. So how good is that? And the quality and all the sort of the catering and so on is wonderful. Now the thing is, because it's run by the private sector, there are various companies in the private sector, we have to sort of charge, because all of these things cost. So at the moment tickets are £160 plus VAT, but the thing is, I've had agreement from the organisers that through the Business Gateway we can offer a 25% discount. So what you need to do is to go through. You just type in e-commerce Scotland into your favorite search engine, go there, and then you've got tickets up in the right-hand corner. Click the tickets, how many tickets that you want. And if you want to get the 25% discount, just when it says put in your sort of discount code, put in Business Gateway, all one word, Business Gateway, and you will immediately see that £160 come down to £120, and you come along for a fantastic day because we're a small community in Scotland, and we really want to get as many people talking to each other, picking up tips and tricks, and just finding out more about e-commerce and how to make more money, grow your business.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thank you very much, Peter. And I've noticed it's already put by colleagues into the chat at the side. You'll see the links there, and you'll see the discount code there as well. We will be coming out with an email after this as well to everyone that's been on today's webinar. You'll get the code in there as well, and you'll also get the link to the feedback as well. But finally, just before we finish up, just to say a huge thank you to you, Anne-Marie, Claire, and Peter for your time today and for sharing your experience and sharing your advice. And thank you to everyone that's been on the call for the duration. Really hope you found that useful. There's been some fantastic tips and advice in there, and wish you all the very best. And we hope to see you back at a future Business Gateway panel and to future Business Gateway webinars as well. Other than that, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.